over the course of the next hour or so, we would welcome anybody to kind of stand up and tell us a Dave story that we probably haven't heard. And we're just here to celebrate Dave. And so feel free to kind of have whatever emotions you might have. There are a couple of people I would like to thank, and I'm not trying to single anybody out, but the circumstances surrounding Dave's death were very difficult for us. And of course, his two major relatives are me and my brother Bob, by the way, who I need to introduce Bob. And Bob came out here the very next day, and it was very challenging to deal with Dave's death and the circumstances and everything else. And Bob accomplished an extraordinary amount of necessary tasks in a short amount of time, mostly in Tijuana, and he could not have done it without the extraordinary friendship shown in Dave's honor by Tony Kalikas and Chucky Masters and the guy in Tijuana. And if you ever go to Tijuana, you want to meet Bobby because he can handle anything and make anything happen. And as an American, if you go and try to buy something in Tijuana, get Bobby to do the negotiating, because Bob kind of kept on getting the American market, and Bobby would knock him down. And but it was just incredible the work that they did, and so I want to thank them. And it's kind of the same general thing. I live in Chicago, and Bob, lives in Columbus, Ohio, so it was hard for us to put this together. And basically, we asked several of Dave's friends to help us do it. And again, Chucky Masters and like Tony Kalikas and Steve Victor put this whole thing together and found the restaurant and ordered the food, and frankly, they are underwriting the cost, and we couldn't be more grateful to them as speaking for the family. So I just wanted to kind of say that, and I will start it and just very, very briefly talk about Dave. I am the oldest brother, Bob is the middle brother, Dave is like the younger brother. I was 6 years older than Dave. And one of the things, for some reason, growing up, we had with our mom and dad a good but with a normal level of dysfunction, that I would say. And that is what families in America do. I mean, it isn't always easy. And I'm guessing Bob and Dave and I were not always model children. And but they are gone, and what was left was the three brothers. And we wouldn't, I can't express enough. We have loved each other and stayed close for all of these years, even though Dave was out here and we all lived in different towns. But I also have got to say, very honestly, Dave was the heart and soul of our family. He was the one. He never married, never had any kids. We married and had kids. And so Dave sort of adopted us into his family, and he was always calling us, always coming back to visit us, all of which, by the way, we had funny stories about. And like Bob and I were talking, and one of the things that we said to one another is, now that we've lost Dave, we can't lose that family spirit, because he was the one who embodied it. And we've got to pick up the slack and stay like very close. But Dave was just that kind of a guy. He was friendly to everybody. He loved his brothers. And Bob and I just miss him terribly, and always will for the rest of our lives. But there's a lot of people here who feel the same way. And so we will miss him terribly. And I have a couple of Dave stories that I'll just start with to sort of encourage all of you to think of your own stories. And there are so many Dave stories that it is hard to recall what all of them are. But I just picked out two. One of which is very recent. Bob is the one who wrote the obituary that was in the paper last Sunday, and I thought it was beautiful. And he really captured Dave, and he mentioned Kitty, which was probably the love of his life, and he mentioned the U of L Cardinals. And we're going to keep the faith. However, Bob and I are both U of L Cardinals fans too, so that's no problem. But he adored the U of L Cardinals for his whole life. He never actually went to U of L, but that was his hometown. Bob had the misfortune of he married a girl who went to Kentucky. And that was a bitter pill for our family, even though she was wonderful. And every March, during March Madness, we would kind of remind Bob of that fact. And there was a little bit of family rivalry, but and also Zenyatta. He was a horse racing fan. And those of you who might be, and there's a couple of us, from Louisville, Kentucky, it's in our DNA. And so he was a horse racing fan, and he came out here, and he and his friend, Christina Judson, would go to Santa Anita and go to Del Mar. They go anywhere, to see Zenyatta. And he never lost interest. And we have a Zenyatta hat to go with the U of L shirt. And so he was a U of L fan. Unfortunately, some of us were out for breakfast this morning. And those of you who are sports fans may know that one of the problems with a lot of college sports in America is they have scandals. And right now, U of L has a athlete scandal that involves women and sex. And Dave was very much aware of it, and he had strong opinions about it. But as we're walking out of the restaurant today, we noticed, breaking news, U of L has decided to self-impose upon themselves, based on this scandal, a one-year ban against going to the postseason. And Dave was really looking forward to them going to the Final Four. He thought they were going to get there, and they had a great team, and now they're not going. And we're so sorry that Dave passed away, but we're also glad he didn't see that. because he would have been outraged. And the second story that I have, Dave, I guess, moved out. I don't even know how long ago that he came here. About 30 years, 20 years?
1990, 1989, something.
Yeah, and he loved it here and never wanted to go back. And but there was one cultural institution in the Middle West that he really missed because they don't have it here. And every time he would come back to visit one of us, he would get off the plane. And I'm sure some of you know about this, but he would get off the plane and say, before we go home to your house, I want to go to a White Castle. He loved White Castle. And he would fly Southwest into Midway Airlines, or into Midway Airport, Midway Airport, and there is gratuitously a White Castle 1 block away. So we wouldn't even ask. We'd get in the car and we'd go to the White Castle. And so one time we were there, and he had just kind of flown in from San Diego. He's getting his White Castle fixed. And I noticed that for no visible reason, the cashier rung up a discount. And I asked her what the discount was. Obviously, I was happy to have a discount. And she says, well, I'm giving you a senior discount. And in a moment of extraordinary stupidity that I wish I had never said, I said, because she didn't get my message of what the answer was supposed to be. And so I said in a joking fashion, just as a curiosity question, which of the two of us were you looking at to see your discount? And it was obvious that I was expecting her to say Dave. And she took me seriously and said, me. And that was funny at the time, but Dave had a good memory, and he never let me forget that. So, and I could go on and on with Dave's stories, but I will just close with this. Bob and I love Dave intensely, and always will, and we will miss him for the rest of our lives. Not only as a wonderful brother, but, and I hate to say this, particularly in death, we have learned more than ever before what a truly special guy he was. And the affection so many people have out here for David. In fact, we have all of these people here now. Bob and I have followed what I'll call a more conventional path in America of careers and marriage, and we had kids and grandkids, and Dave took a different path. And God love him, he was a different kind of a guy, and he was his own man. But I have to say, and I'm speaking for myself, in many important ways, Dave was more successful as like a human being than I am. If I were to die this week, I would not generate the kind of affection that Dave did. And in fact, I have resolved to take Dave's example. and make myself a better man, because he kind of provided a role model on what's important in life. And it's not necessarily career or even marriage and kids, though that's wonderful, but it's the kind of human being you are, and how you treat other people and how they feel about you. And Dave is a role model, and I intend to use him, and I'm being very honest. He was more successful than I am, and I want to be more like him. So that's as honest as I can say.
We can all say that.
Yeah.
We can all say that.
So at this point, let me stop and turn it over to Bob.
Be here.
Yeah. Today. Space.
Let's see what little business here. First of all, Dave, he coined this thing. We had all these favorite sports teams, and so he was referred to, for example, U of L as our beloved Cardinals, but then there were our beloved Aztecs, our beloved Northwestern. We had a dime a dozen beloved. And he always would,
And don't forget Wisconsin.
our beloved Badgers. So, but David would go see the Aztecs, and he actually purchased a ticket. It's a nice ticket, it's a $40 ticket for a week from tomorrow, next Saturday's San Diego State basketball game against Air Force. I want to give this to some, I don't want this to be wasted. I want somebody to go and sit in the seat that David was going to enjoy this game. And I want to, if anybody would like this, here it is. It's for a week from tomorrow. San Diego State Air Force.
You got to cheer San Diego State.
Pardon me?
Should we auction it off?
No, because otherwise it's going to wind up, you know.
Yeah.
So please, please see me.
Bob
I'm
if you
trying
want
to see.
tickets.
I want someone who's going to enjoy this, and it's right here. Would you like it? There you go. Yeah. He thinks it's a trick. No, it's there. It is.
It very well could be.
No, yeah, Dave's trick. I was going to get that. No, he printed it. That was in his apartment. He just printed it out. He ordered it online, and that's the ticket. You know, you just turn it in.
We're talking to a bunch of lawyers, and they're kind of skeptical.
What are the tax implications?
Okay, he's out of town, but see me. Otherwise, you know.
No, somebody take this.
Yeah, it's a wonderful ticket.
It's a real
Yeah. The other thing is, first of all, I have a couple of heroes. Tony Kalikas, I burned him out that week I was out here, and it was, I would kind of describe it as a horrible adventure. It was very intense, the kind of things we had to go through, the things we had to nail down and arrange. One thing that was amazing, the thing that I was concerned about most of anything was getting Kitty to where he needed to be. And thanks to Christina, her generosity taking Kitty. But to get him out of that apartment, to my knowledge, he had never left the apartment. He was a hermit. He'd go in the closet. He didn't seem to want to get picked up to be taken out. So
Wait a minute, we're talking about the cat and not
he was taken out. But anyway, Tony helped get him all the way to Pasadena. We got him over the border, and we just kept going. I'll always be grateful to Tony for all he did this week. The other thing is, and I want to get the name, I have problems pronouncing, Robert Tides. Where are you, Bob?
Titus.
He is my total hero. He's a friend, a longtime friend of Tony's. He is expertly bilingual, a man of integrity, of great knowledge and skill. He took us by the hand and took us down into Tijuana, and everything we did, negotiating with the legal folks, the crematorium, negotiating with the landlord to some issues that came up in getting out of Dave's apartment, working with the veterinarian that we got to come to Dave's apartment, all the things that he did. We would still probably be down in the coroner's office trying to get Dave out of there if it were not for Bobby. And I only say that, this is an unsolicited testimony. If any of you have clients or a personal need, if you go down there, any interaction, I'm being very serious, any interaction down there, Bobby is an invaluable resource. And we retained him for those services, but he was so reasonable, we had to give him more than he was asking for. He's phenomenal, and I wanted to mention that, and I'll always be grateful.
You have cards?
Oh, yeah, he does, and you ought to get one. He's doing this more full-time now. He's a great man. When we went through Dave's apartment, Bobby had the idea, we got some of the foodstuffs and all, and went to the orphanage that we stopped at in Tijuana and gave them some things. It was really great. Now, I want to hear your stories, but I guess just one thing I want to say is that of course, Dave tended to me like he tended to all of you all, and I'm hearing these wonderful stories, maybe for the first time. A couple years ago, I ruptured my Achilles tendon in 2012, and he came and helped take care of me. I couldn't get up and get to the bath. I mean, it was a mess. But he came and took care of me. When he'd come and visit you, there were always 5-day increments, because that was Kitty's time span that he had to get back. So you could have David only for 5 days, including transit time. And then in February, about a year ago, I had a quadruple bypass, and he came in March and stayed with me, you know, for a week. And I never dreamed that I would, you know, a year later, I would be alive and he would not. But he took care of me. I have a wonderful dog who has an inoperable brain tumor, and he's still alive. We got him some radiation, a couple of rounds of radiation therapy. Dave would call every day during the treatment for weeks to see how my dog was. When I finished up with my surgery, he called me every day for weeks just to check in, just to see how I was doing. He was that attentive. I know he was that way and found ways to be that way with you all. As many of you know, Dave enjoyed going to Las Vegas to try to get away. And once in a while, his attorney colleagues would find him there, and he'd get into these long, he'd have to stay up all night and do some work. It didn't turn out like he thought. But Las Vegas was kind of his place in later years. So I decided a couple of years ago, I said, Dave, neither one of us are getting any younger. Let me come out there. I want to see the David Sholis Las Vegas. So I did, and we met out there in September of 2013 and had one of the best times I've ever had. And he was so excited I was coming. About 6 weeks beforehand, he started sending me these like glossy, shiny postcards you buy at the airport and stuff. He had bought like 30 of them, and like once every 3 or 4 days, I would get one of these. And he would have a note on there, it would be a picture of some nightclub or something. So we get there, we're going to do this, and do that. We're going to go to the Wax Museum, or we're going to do this or that. And then afterwards, after we had such a great time, afterwards, he got another batch and he started sending me more of them, saying, the next time we go, we're going to see this, or we didn't get time to check this out. And we had such a good time, and I'm so glad that we went. Now, it was funny because he said, you know, I said, and I'm an ordained minister. I said, this is kind of cool. I like going to Las Vegas. And I said, he said, we don't drink, we don't gamble at the casino, and we don't like to go out and order big dinners. But there was still a lot to do. Remember, one time he went to the magician Matt King. If you ever go, he has an afternoon show, sort of G-rated. I kept dragging him to all the G-rated stuff, but he put up with me. And Mac had this act, and at one point in the act, he has a hamster. The hamster goes in the side pocket and disappears, never to be seen again during the show. And Dave, with his mock outrage, was determined to find out what did Matt King do with that hamster. We're going to find out. We're calling animal protection and go from there. But we had such a great time. The sad part is, and as I look, I still have all those cards he sent me. I actually have that on my table. I look at them every day. The sad part is we never got to go back, because we planned to go back and what we're going to do the next time. And then I got sick and we never got a chance to go back. I only mention that because we need to remind ourselves every so often, it's kind of a truism, but we need to remind ourselves it's so important to take the opportunity to enjoy the people that are important in your life. Do not fail with that opportunity, because we never know, life is so fragile, you never know how much time we have together. And I'm so glad I had that time with Dave, at least that one time, that 1 week. I'll never forget it. And that's all I want to say to us here. Let's not miss that opportunity with you and the people in your life. So at this point, I think our cue was to turn it over to Christina.
Like Christina, to give us an update on Kitty. Because if Dave was watching this, and I think he is, that's when he wants you know, to know more than anything about any of us, what about Kitty? So we're in a business mode, and Kitty is on the agenda.
Okay.
And then we're down.
Okay. Let's see. Dave was never one to talk about what he wanted to do with anything in terms of in the long term. Oh, sorry. I hate to talk to my phone, but when it comes to this guy, this is Kitty, and Kitty was his pride and joy, and he would always say to me when I said, "Hey, you're a very educated, good-looking guy. Do you have a girlfriend?" he'd say, I have a long-term relationship with my cat. And I'm sure you guys have all heard that. Yeah, but I can tell by the laughing. But he took very good care of him. And I was really surprised that when Tony and Bob brought him up, that when he got out of the cat carrier, I was able to pick him up like I'd owned him for years. And I just took him upstairs. He has his own room. And I'm slowly trying to get him used to the other two cats. But everything is going well. The other two cats keep visiting him in his room. So,
Well, Dave was very serious about asking if you would take him. And I know that there were some concerns you had, but we're so happy you did.
well, one thing that Dave always used to say to me when he'd go to Las Vegas, he was concerned, this was my phrase that I coined to him, you're going to come home to a puke-lined apartment. And he adopted that phrase afterwards. He goes, I like that.
With hairballs everywhere.
Well, it was mainly, I think it's because when he left, he would leave this big bowl of dry food, and Kitty would say, oh boy, and he'd eat it all up, and the rest is history. Now I'm trying to reteach him how to eat. And so he's an old cat, he's 10 years old, so I'm hoping for the best, but as long as he gets used to me and the other kitties, then everything is going fine. And I gave him a huge hug before I left for here, so he's a happy cat.
Well, one of the things we can learn from Kitty, because I always try and make everything a learning experience. What happened to Kitty and what happened to Dave was traumatic for Kitty. Dave had passed away. And frankly, it was a matter of several days before we got down to the found him. Kitty's in the apartment, Dave has died. And he was holed up in the closet. And then he is taken by people that he really doesn't know very well, and put in the car and taken to the vet and getting shots. And he never would leave that apartment. But he's taken to the vet, getting shots. They take him to the border. He almost escapes. It's pouring rain. They put him in a car. They drive him to L.A. And then he moves in a new house with a new family that has several cats in it already. And so I was actually thinking, how is he going to adjust to all that? Okay, if he had been a human being, he would be seen as shrink for a couple of years at a cost of God knows what. But he has a different approach. He went under your day bed for a full week. Now you fed him, but he never came out, and his little cat mind was processing it. And after 7 days, he had sorted it out, correct?
Yes.
And came out, and he's good to go.
Yep.
And I was impressed.
Yeah, and in this picture, with his paws outstretched, he's kind of kneading the top of the day bed, so he's a happy cat. So